Well, howdy, space cowboys. This is your old buckaroo Trent here sitting with Betsy.
Yeehaw!
This is Never Scream It, coming to you for a third entry in this year's installment of our favorite series that we do every single year. Today, we're going into the great beyond after plumbing the depths of Antarctica. Today, we're covering Event Horizon. Betsy, what do you know about this movie?
As far as I know, there are not actually cowboys in this movie.
I haven't seen it. What do you know?
Well, I'm just guessing. You came in hot with the cowboy references, but I don't think that's really
We also
a thing.
haven't seen Space Cowboys.
At least I don't think I have. I remember when that came out, which was around the same time as Event Horizon.
Something.
It was like the late 90s.
It was the year 2000. I just looked it up.
Okay, all right. Anyway, totally off topic, as is our tradition. So, Event Horizon. This one is a sci-fi horror, which we have not spent a ton of time doing, but this is yet another of those I don't really know a whole lot about. I'm aware it exists. We watched a trailer for it not that long ago, and I've kind of already forgotten what we covered. So before we watched the trailer, I knew Sam Neill was in this.
Yep.
I know it takes place in space. This is probably one of the long list of movies for 20 years after Alien that is trying to do something like they did in Alien.
Yeah, they're trying to recapture Alien in a way because that was such a thing, and it got a bunch of sequels. And I think people were kind of hungry for sci-fi back in the day because think about the 90s. All we were kind of getting here was a bunch of disaster movies, and this is not one of those. So do you remember anybody else who you saw in the trailer?
No.
Okay, I'm going to say our friend Larry Fish. Lawrence Fishburne is in this movie. There are some ladies here that I think are they're famous for being in 90s movies. I could not tell you their names, but I know their faces.
I will probably be able to tell you their names, Trent.
Of course. Do you know what the term Event Horizon is? It is a real term having to do with space.
Is it something about a black hole?
Yes.
Like the
edges? Think about Interstellar.
As far as it's like as close as you can get to it without being sucked in or something.
The actual definition I could not tell you. I know it has to do with a black hole or a wormhole or something to that effect.
So maybe they go into a black hole and then bad things happen?
I think if I remember the trailer right, they come upon a wormhole and they want to go through it because they're getting a signal. Stop me if you've heard this before. But I will say, I'm not gonna reveal what I know here because it might be a spoiler. I don't actually know, but there is a connection to another movie, Betsy, we have recently covered, if you can believe it. I have no idea what the connection is. I have just heard that it is this movie, but in space. And with that, I'm gonna cut this short. We're gonna go and watch Event Horizon from 1997. We will be right back. And that was Event Horizon. Betsy, did you make it back home or did you succumb to space madness?
I have to say this simply because right now we are rewatching the Pirates of the Caribbean original trilogy. Part of the ship, part of the crew, part of the ship, part of the crew. That's what I was thinking of at the end of this movie.
All right.
So Event Horizon. This is a movie that wants to be very good, but it's not. But it's also not the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm processing my feelings about this one.
Yeah.
It has an atmosphere. It has a mood. There are definitely some moments where it gets freaky. And I'm like kind of holding my breath, anticipating what's around the corner. The problems with the movie come from the fact that there isn't much here. They don't really explain anything. They keep setting up all this creepy atmospheric shit, and then they don't really follow through. I can basically summarize this movie in some freaky shit is happening. I don't care. We have 17 hours left. some freaky shit is happening. I don't care. We have 10 hours left. Every 5 minutes, you have to remind me there's some freaky shit, and also we're on the clock here. And that's kind of the whole movie until the last 10 minutes.
It's an excuse to put a whole bunch of people in danger in a spaceship.
Yes.
That's the movie.
That is the movie. And I'm really frustrated with it because the bones, I think, are there. Like, this is genuinely freaky at a couple of points in it, but nothing really ever gets explained. And you were just reading some of the behind the scenes stuff, and the original cut of this movie was significantly longer.
Yeah.
I would love to see that version of the movie because we've watched some Paul W.S. Anderson movies in the past. Specifically on the podcast, we watched Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt the same way about Resident Evil that I'm feeling about this. It's so close. Like, you're so close. I just can't get on board with exactly the product that you've given me for the final cut.
Betsy, we haven't watched a whole lot of Paul W.S. Anderson movies. But from what I know about his filmography, I don't know if he has ever made a quality, top-notch film. All of his movies are basically just like this. They got some good bones, you maybe got some good actors, you convinced some good actors to be in your movie, and you got a decent enough budget in order to have your vision come alive, but the vision, there's nothing behind the curtain. It's all window dressing. As you said, we watched the original Resident Evil movie back in year 1 of the podcast. That movie has some entertaining moments. At the very least, you can have a good time if you don't pay attention to the plot. Same thing in this movie. If you don't care that all of the stuff happening here makes no scientific sense for one thing, it also makes no logical sense that they would be doing what they're doing. But again, that's not why you're coming to a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. The one movie I would say that I enjoyed the most watching the first time and pretty much every time I've seen it, he made the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, hell yes. Yes.
That is some hot-ass garbage, but it's so fucking fun.
I did not know he directed that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, and again, if you just look at his filmography, you kind of can see where this little boy energy is coming from. I think he just likes a whole lot of explosions and weird shit, and I do too, but when you were presenting this movie as this almost hardcore sci-fi, when you got a scientist explaining to you what a wormhole is in the same way they do in Interstellar, you know that there's at least a core of science to this sci-fi movie. But after that moment, all out the fucking window.
So the thing I kept thinking about while watching this movie was actually an episode of Doctor Who. Because there is an episode from not this most recent, but one season before it. So pretty recent Doctor Who, when they brought David Tennant back. There is an episode where he ends up on this spaceship and they're in this long corridor like they have here.
Yep.
And so when they got on the ship, I was like, that's like Doctor Who. And then you know what fucking happens in that episode? They're on the edges of the universe and he basically welcomes something from the depths that is unexplainable.
Of course, because it's Doctor Who.
Well, yes, but I think they've also seen Event Horizon because that's basically what happens here. They go as far out in the universe as humans have ever gone.
Yep.
They're fucking around with technology they don't understand. They're fucking around with space travel in a way they don't understand. And the thing that happened is the thing I always say, Trent. If you're a well-funded scientist, you are the villain. This guy has no business being on this mission, but he is there to salvage the very expensive, time-consuming spaceship that was lost out in the universe. Capitalism at its finest. We have to rescue the expensive equipment. That's the goal here. And he turns out to go absolutely fucking insane. And I don't know if that's because of what's going on the ship or partially because he was so committed to getting this ship in the first place, he's susceptible to it.
I don't know because they don't explain that portion of it at all. I would like to also point out here that Event Horizon came out the same year as the movie Contact.
I did also think of that while we were watching. I was like, oh yeah, 97.
Because I'd only seen Contact the one time when we did it for the show, I was trying to remind myself, geez, where have I seen all of this stuff before? Okay, well, there's a whole lot of Mass Effect stuff here, and I remember talking about Mass Effect in one of our episodes. What was that? Oh, it's the other fucking space movie that came out the same year.
They're definitely drawing from real science, and I appreciate any movie that does that, regardless of how serious you're taking it. But yeah, you were getting real hyped when you're like, it's that thing from Mass Effect, and I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I know what Mass Effect is, but I don't remember seeing that bit while watching you play the games, because I didn't watch every moment of the games.
Well, the idea here, like the Mass Effect in this movie that we just watched, it's the core. It is the gravity core. But in the game, it is basically something that can slingshot onto a huge engine in space that will slingshot you across the galaxy.
Just whipping you around out into the universe.
Kinda. And, you know, I could go on about Mass Effect and my love of that series and how they really try to ground it in some kind of science and or reality. And clearly, the game makers were paying attention in 1997 to what was happening in the sci-fi universe, because holy shit, is there a lot here. But Betsy, I mentioned in the intro that there was a movie that we had recently covered on the show that isn't quite trying to rip off another property, but I know you figured it out. Why don't you tell our listeners?
Yeah, it's kind of like a few years ago where we accidentally ended up watching Evil Dead and Cabin in the Woods back to back.
Yeah.
Because in this series, we watched Event Horizon shortly after we watched Hellraiser. It's the same fucking movie because they are going to the edges of space and opening a portal, or a box, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side is something chaotic and terrifying and unknown to them.
It's another dimension that you do not understand. You cannot handle it, but there is some kind of entity here trying to bring you to it.
And it's full of chaos and torture and pleasure and...
I don't know about pleasure.
Well, to their interpretation of pleasure, I
have
think.
no idea.
But it's a portal to a world of chaos that was created by a man out of his own hubris.
How do you get that? How do you know that this other dimension is man-made?
No, the gateway is man-made because Sam Neill made the gateway is what I'm saying.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the other dimension.
No.
Okay.
He fucked around with science because he could, because he's like, I figured out how to make an artificial black hole. But then he doesn't have any of the answers because he just did it because he could. He didn't think of the consequences of his own actions.
Who could have known? He's making an artificial black hole because he is trying to make it so that vehicles can go faster than the speed of light. Well, you can't go faster than the speed of light based on the law of relativity and whatnot. So how do you get around that? You have to bend the space and time in order to do that. Well, what bends space and time? A black hole. So you make your own kind of black hole and see if you can try to control it. But like you said, through man's hubris, you just expect that you're going to know what's going to happen when you do a thing, and you don't test all the solutions.
And even when it has been proven to you that this was a bad fucking idea, you're still trying to salvage it. You're still trying to say, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. We can still save my creation.
And why do you think that is? Is it because he feels guilty about being away, so this is my life's work, this is the only thing I have left? Or like, what's going through your mind here about like why is he doing all this?
Well, the way they present it, he's already kind of on the edge because he's having freaky dreams from the moment he appears on screen. So it's almost like he's weirdly psychically connected to the ship even before he's ever on the ship.
Yeah, because he's on a fucking space station first.
Yeah, but he's having dreams about like bodies and shit floating around in the deep recesses of space. He's having dreams about his wife without her eyes. And he isn't even there yet. He hasn't gotten to the event horizon.
Yeah. His dream is him kind of floating kind of without skin, which is kind of how he ended up when he got sucked out into space. So he's having some kind of weird premonition. Kind of everybody is. By the time they all get on the ship and they go into stasis, before long, everybody's having these hallucinations.
Once they get on the event horizon, yes, but he's the one that's having these visions beforehand.
Yeah.
Is it maybe because he knows, like he's gotten the distress call, he's kind of been introduced to it, and they don't know?
He built the thing, so he must have been exposed to whatever the fuck it was. I don't know.
Like maybe the goo
during
the
testing of it, I'm sure he turned it on, but maybe didn't execute. I don't know. I am grasping at straws here because there is no explanation other than, hey, it's a hell dimension, and somehow the hell dimension got onto this ship. Thinking about another video game, fucking Doom, is all about that shit.
But it's not just on the ship, it is the ship. The ship and this chaos is one and the same.
And like the crew, except for the corpsicle, the crew's all gone. Where do they go?
Apparently they're on the other side, maybe? Like they died on that part of the dimension?
They're all just in there getting tortured?
Forever?
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know.
They don't do a good job explaining the why. And you can sometimes get away with these kinds of movies. But when you're doing this kind of horror movie that's based in real science, now I'm expecting like, oh, you're trying to be smart. You're trying to do it for real. Like, yes, there's going to be some theoretical stuff, and then we'll bring horror into the picture. But then you don't bother explaining basically anything.
You don't give us enough horror. It's just kind of some weird shit happening. You don't explain anything. You don't show anything except, hey, people are getting cut up for a reason. I don't know.
Yeah, the clock is ticking and people are just having weird visions throughout the ship.
Yeah, and the Sam Neill character is apparently very susceptible to whatever influence that is permeating throughout the ship. So he gets it in his mind that he's going to open up the hatch of, I don't know what the fuck is in the ship, like banging on the door. He says, I need to open the door. And then he also gets influenced to plant a fucking bomb on the other ship that blows up 2 of their crewmates and the only opportunity for them to go home. And right before that, he goes into where the gravity well thing is. He sees the other crew member who fell down after seeing her son.
She got tricked.
She falls down, busts her ass, and Sam Neill comes in there and gouges his own eyes out because it reminds him of his dead wife.
Presumably. But again, not really explained.
No. Where we're going, we don't need eyes to see. What? What the fuck is that?
I thought he was going to say where we're going, we don't need roads. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say.
You shouldn't say that in this movie.
But I wouldn't have been surprised if he did because there's some tonal shifts.
I would have loved if this movie, Betsy, if this movie was a space sci-fi horror comedy. Give me that.
You could have gotten down with that. Okay, well, there are some weird moments. So you just mentioned he goes onto the ship, he plants a bomb, he blows it up. There's a guy out on the outside of the ship.
Yeah, Cooper.
Cooper is fixing the hull. And when the ship gets blown up, he gets blasted into space, conveniently wedged in this floating piece of metal. And then he's just out in space going, shit, what do I do? Oh, gosh. And it's so comedic and strange.
He's kind of commentating what's happening here. It's like, okay, I need to blast my air vents and I need to do this and it's malfunctioning and blah, blah, blah. I can understand him being stuck there and like the piece of metal that gets blown off because he's got his fucking metal boots on, and that's cool.
Okay, I forgot about the magnetic boots, so you've at least given me an explanation for how that's possible.
Sure, but they don't, unless I missed it, they don't show that he is actually pointed towards the ship. It just looked like he was trying to go to Neptune.
The long and short of it is, he gets blown up, and instead of dying, which would have made more sense in the context of this movie, he somehow manages to get back to the ship.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to. There's literally no reason for him to have to survive this because it would have been a better horror trope if we had one person left and it was the final girl.
Which is exactly what I wanted here. I wanted more horror. You needed to kill everybody except, one of them.
Jolie Richardson should have been the last one to survive.
Yeah.
And it would have been a heroic moment. But I think they maybe got scared of that because of what we said. Everybody's chasing Alien and the Alien franchise. We've already got this badass chick leading a franchise. If you go too hard in that direction and Jolie Richardson is the one who gets to save the day, now you're really going to get called out for having ripped off Alien or tried to and failed miserably.
Or Ripley'd it off.
Stop. I think you need to take a break now if you're going to make those kind of jokes.
All right, we're going to take a break here to, I don't know, I'm going to punish myself for that stupid line. We'll be right back. This season, give yourself the gift you've always wanted. It's not a new car, and certainly not diamond jewelry. It's premium podcasts from the industry's leading connoisseurs of conversation. For only $5 a month, you will receive the most privileged access to their entire catalog. Patreon.com/NeverSeenItPod. Only the best for the discerning listener. Betsy, in the intro, I mentioned that in this time in the 90s, the big budget movies were all the disaster movies like Independence Day and Volcano and Dante's Peak. You got a lot of CG happening, and it looks okay even for the day. But this movie, right off the bat, it is in your face, literally, with how 90s a movie it is, to the point where you got floating objects, like fake objects floating in space, floating to the camera. Did that completely take you out of it like it did me?
It almost sets the tone for the entire movie, and I was really concerned right off the bat. Oh no, this movie's gonna be terrible, huh? I was pleasantly surprised that it did get better, but you're right. When that's the first thing you see, and it looks like a child's art project, the stuff floating in space, and it's also so inconsistent. They say, okay, this is what's going on the ship, and it's frozen. But then when they go there later, there's a water bottle sloshing. But we were already told the ship is basically frozen because they turned off all the stuff. It's been floating out in space. Why is there water sloshing? Simply because the people doing the CGI were like, do you want us to make it slosh? We can.
We can, yeah, exactly. Which I think is kind of why this movie exists in the first place. You have the budget in order to make a sci-fi movie that is set out in space. And Independence Day didn't really spend a whole lot of time out in space. Well, we can one up and we can do it even better.
But don't you get the sense that unless we're showing the outside of the spaceship, unless we're showing the Mass Effect orb, as you referred to it, or the meat grinder looking tunnel, doesn't it kind of feel like that's it? Like we spent the bulk of the time on practical sets with real tangible design to it. Because most of this is just a set. And they do the thing in sci-fi movies where they're just arbitrarily blah, blah, blah. We have gravity.
Yeah, fake
also,
gravity.
Who wants to smoke? Which, all oxygen environment. Okay.
Yeah, the smoking thing really, really bothered me because of that fact, of course. But hey, it's a sci-fi movie. You can make up some kind of an excuse to say, well, we solved that problem by doing the mixture better. And Jason Isaacs needs to be on this ship because he's the doctor and he has an addiction. So whatever. But yes, you're right. What bothered me here is that they were so casual about, oh, we're just walking around this ship like it's nothing, like it's a submarine, not a spaceship. At no time do the people on the ship do things that indicate that you might be in space. Like, think back to Apollo 13 that came out, 2 years prior to this one?
Something like that. It wasn't very long.
No. They're throwing things around. They're drinking water out of the air, and they're in space, so to speak.
They went up in the Vomit Comet to film that movie.
Right. It's an approximation of space. But I don't think that anybody was really trying to have fun with the idea that they were in space. I think it is just a setting that they happen to be in.
We were on one spaceship. Now we're on a different spaceship. But we have gravity. We can run. We can walk.
Yeah.
We can do everything like we normally would because we figured out how to do that.
I was taken out of it immediately when they first show Sam Neill and he's getting up from his bed and he pulls the photo off of his wall. And I was thinking to myself there, Well, they're going to do the thing in other movies where he just lets go of the photo and it's floating away. Okay, well, he doesn't let go of it, so they're not going to do that. Fine. But then he gets up, goes to the sink, and there's running water. Okay, he must be on Earth. He's not in space yet. How is there running water on a sink? But then we pull out of this window, and apparently this shot right here cost a third of the effects budget of the film just to have this one 45-second shot pulling out of this craft. Which I'll give you, it looks cool, but by today's standards,
my, how the times have changed.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Most of the budget just went to, we built a set and we're going to run around it, which doesn't really bother me if this were like the really, really distant future. But seeing as this movie takes place in, what did we say, 2047?
Yes, it is 2047. Which, let's just, as long as we're here, let's talk about the timeline. Apparently, in the year 2015, the far-flung future of 2015, we have a colony on the moon.
Great news, everyone. We've been on the moon for a whole decade.
That's right. In a mere 7 years, we're going to have commercial mining on Mars, which I would not put it out of the realm of possibility that eventually there's going to be mining at least on the moon in our lifetime. Not because, hey, we really need it, but because there's capitalists on Earth that want to extract value from the moon. But that's just my cynical streak coming out. Then, of course, we get into when the events of the movie happen. In 2040, the Event Horizon goes on its mission to go to Neptune. And what was the actual stated mission?
Basically, humans had only ventured as far as Neptune. And they had some reason for being there as the jump point for the mission, to be that far away to turn on the machine in the Event Horizon to go across the universe. But I didn't really remember exactly or catch why Neptune, other than maybe that's the farthest we had been.
I don't know. But of course, the government lied. They say it was the worst disaster in the history of space travel and whatnot. But it's all a ruse. They just lost contact because they think that they went through a wormhole that they designed, but then they never came back. So they're trying to go out there to see what they can see, or to rescue them, or to find the Event Horizon, or to what. Again, they're not very specific here. They just want to get to the good part.
Because this movie, Trent, is 96 minutes long.
Yes.
That's the fundamental problem, I think, with this film. Is we just don't have the time to answer any of these questions. And Paul W.S. Anderson came out and said that the movie was originally over 2 hours. It was 210. It was 130 minutes. But the studio was like, this is too gory. This is too bloody. This is too crazy.
That was the stuff that he cut out. All of the extra violence that was either happening with the old crew or the new crew, or it was in some of these visions that they were having.
Having seen some of his other movies, that sounds like the good shit.
Yeah. I think if he really, really wanted to make a movie like this, he should have skipped all of the extra sci-fi. Just say you're going on a rescue mission. There's a derelict ship somewhere. We're going to go and rescue him. And have some other kind of contrivance to have fucking aliens come out of it or something. I don't know.
We don't need to explain where the human race has gone, where we're going. Just, this is the world we're in. Start right away. We're in space. That was the thing I was just thinking, and I wanted to ask you this. We have often talked about these movies where there's a good concept, the bones are good, but the execution is bad. I feel like being 28 years removed from Event Horizon, I wouldn't be mad if someone wanted to remake this. Is that something you think that could be done in a way that could be successful in 2025?
I read something just a little while ago after we decided to do Event Horizon. Apparently there is going to be a graphic novel series that is going to be a prequel to what happens in Event Horizon. It's not going to be a movie, at least not right away anyway, but I would love somebody else to take a crack at this story, whether it be based on this or something completely different. I think it can be done. And maybe that most recent Alien movie, the Alien Romulus movie, maybe that's that. And we just haven't kept up on the Alien franchise.
We've kind of, as per usual, have missed the boat on that one. But from what I was hearing, it is another spaceship out in the universe. They're exploring it, trying to figure out why it's out there. And then shit goes down because it's an alien movie.
And with that, it is a physical menace that is coming after you. In this movie, there's nothing. There's no bad guy here.
They're very bad at explaining it too, because sometimes everybody can universally hear and experience the thing that's going on. Sometimes it is based on your own fears.
Yeah, your own personally deeply held beliefs.
So the time where the woman is just pacing up and down in the medical bay, she's pacing back and forth, and she goes past the guy and he's in a coma. And then she comes back and he's still there. And she comes back and he's gone. Because every time you pan, it's like, well, it's the rules of 3. She's passed him 3 times now. And then there's this fucking banging and this, the vertigo shots and things and lights flashing. And half of the crew doesn't hear it. Half of the crew doesn't know what's going on. And I just wish we were more specific. Is this affecting one person?
Yeah.
Is this affecting everybody?
I don't know the rules of this world.
Yeah, give me the rules, because it seems like you're making them up as you go.
Which would be fine if it was more frenetic and it just kept on going. But they stop too many times in order to creep you out. Like when Sam Neill goes into the Matrix hallway, the lights are going in and out and he's hearing voices and it's his dead wife with no eyes. And yeah.
That was creepy as shit.
Sure. But then you move on to something else and it slows down again. Stay with the guy.
And you know what else they didn't do? They didn't build up the tension. They didn't kill off enough people and raise the stakes soon enough.
Yeah.
Because nobody dies in this movie. They all are with us for 70+% of the movie. And then it starts going off like a rocket. And it's so much all at once that you're like, what are you doing?
Even the fucking kid gets put out into outer space and his body is leaking blood everywhere. He survives.
And they just put him in stasis and it's going to be fine.
Right.
But the time that it actually takes off for the big finale, it's all just happening simultaneously. And you almost waste it. It would have been scarier if people were dying more frequently, if we were really, instead of just telling me the time, because that's all they do. They just remind you of how much time you have left instead of raising the stakes. I'm just like, oh my God, you're all standing around talking and it's been 3 hours since 5 minutes ago.
If they did what you just said and they killed off somebody in whatever fashion that it was, then you could bring the entire crew together and work together. But no, they all are literally at each other's throats at one point because the pilot doesn't want to be on the Event Horizon. He wants to be on his own ship so he can get the fuck out of there. And then Jason Isaacs pulls out a fucking knife and puts it up to his throat. Yeah, I don't know, Betsy. The more and more we talk about this movie, the more I don't like it. But there are some interesting things here. Not to bum everybody out here, but there are some interesting things. There are some, humorous stuff. Did you have anything to talk about?
So in the way that I thought Hellraiser's most impressive feat was the special effects and like the makeup work and stuff, I think the same goes for Event Horizon. When Sam Neill gouges his own eyes out and then spends the rest of the movie as this clawed up freaky guy, it was working for me.
Yeah, the makeup is really well done.
I thought that was really good.
When they're cutting back and forth very, very quickly to the torture dimension with like fucking barbed wire on people's face and the blood everywhere. Which, by the way, what the hell was the blood about?
That was going to be my next thing. The whole ship just fills with blood and it turns into The Shining for some reason.
Yeah.
And they don't explain that either. But it is practical. It looked cool.
Literally,
it has no purpose.
See, what I thought was going to happen, because I had this Hellraiser thing in my mind, I was trying to find out, okay, what's Hellraiser about this again? I thought because he turned on the gravity well thing, I thought the blood was being pumped into the engine, as it were, to fuel it. And that was the big reveal. Kind of like what happens at the end of Snowpiercer. This horrific thing is happening in front of you, and you're like, okay.
I've processed what's really going on here.
Yeah.
No, it's just freaky imagery for the sake of freaky imagery. But Hellraiser had that going for it too. It's just kind of adding to the mood, to the vibe. It's not really explained. It doesn't serve a purpose. It just looks cool.
Just like when they string up Jason Isaacs' body when he's
God.
vivisected.
Yeah, he gets disemboweled and his body is ripped apart, but we spend almost no time on it. That could have been such a satisfying, terrifying moment, and it lasts for a minute.
That's the thing, though. That is one of the scenes that they had to cut, or at least cut back way far.
The cut.
Yeah, they had to cut it, Betsy. They apparently were so zoomed in on this body because they really made it. That body looks just like Jason Isaacs, down to his like hair, his moles, his physique, everything is accurate. So when audiences were looking at it for the first time, they were getting sick in the aisles. It was terrible.
It was too much. They went too far.
It was too accurate.
And that's another element they don't explain. They show him earlier in the movie and he's got that big scar. So my assumption is his own personal horror has something to do with that, like having his body cracked open for some major surgery that he had. But we never hear his story. Like, we know pretty much everybody else's. We've got the woman who's separated from her son.
Yep.
We've got the captain who watched a fellow crew member get burned alive and he left him there. They sort of explain all of the bad things that are driving each person crazy, but they don't do it for everybody. It seems like there's members of the crew that aren't affected by this.
It's very uneven. You don't get any of it with the pilot either.
No, we don't. The pilot is unaffected, and Jolie Richardson seems to be unaffected. She's the one that says, I think it's the ship. How the fuck do you know that?
Right.
You have no evidence to support that. We just need some exposition to move this story along.
Well, Captain, you asked me for an explanation. That's what I got.
But if they took a little time to explain all of these things, I think the dominoes would fit together better because, as I said, Jason Isaacs has the most horrible thing happen to him, but he also has that scar. So I can make a leap that maybe those two things are connected, and that's the worst torture for him, is reliving that experience.
I never had that thought, but I think you're right.
Because otherwise, why would he have that giant scar?
Why would they show the scar anyway?
They literally show it earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
But I agree, the actual flayed body that they created does look quite convincing.
Yeah.
So I'm saying there are strengths to the movie. I'm not saying it got executed well. I'm just saying I can see where they were trying to go with it.
I think that is going back to what we've already said about Paul W.S. Anderson. He has the ability to make really great movies. I just don't think he wants to. I think
he wants
to. He's got this little weird streak in him. Like, I think he really wants to be a Sam Raimi.
But like early days Sam Raimi, where he gets to just do really freaky, fucked up shit.
Right. Like, most of the stuff that he has made has all been like licensed properties, like Resident Evil. I think he directed all of them. There's like 7 of them.
He's also married to the star, so it kind of makes sense.
Of course. And Mortal Kombat, and this is probably based on a property or a book or something. Maybe if he wrote his own stuff and directed it and was able to convince the studio to give him the budget for it, maybe what he could make would be good, but maybe not. I have no idea. I haven't seen it yet.
I need to find out if there's a director's cut, and if there isn't for Event Horizon, I really wish he would do it. We're so far removed, why the hell not? Give me the goriest, gnarliest version of this movie as you originally envisioned it, because maybe then I would get the vision.
Yeah, just turn it into a body horror movie. I don't care. But what I'm being given here is not enough. Speaking of him and his movies, I just had to point out the similarities, or at least the little tiny scenes that I was noticing between this and Resident Evil. Number one, the hallway. He's got 2 of them in this movie.
He does love a hallway. It makes you nervous when he puts a hallway on screen.
I was expecting more things to happen in that meat grinder hallway, but it doesn't.
I liked his little Matrix hallway. That was effective.
Yeah, that was good. Also, there's, I think, 2 different instances here where they zoom way into somebody's eyeball. The same thing happens in Resident Evil.
Oh, I was wondering why you were reacting to that, because I've only seen Resident Evil time we did it on the podcast. They do it to
Mila Jovovich.
Jovovich.
Yeah. But one more thing that I had read, they had run out of budget for an effect that they wanted to do in the big room where this gravity thing is. There's spikes in the wall. And what he wanted to do was think about Hellraiser. The spikes were supposed to come out of the wall and into a ball. It wasn't supposed to be this weird cylindrical, spherical thing.
Like they have holes and it would fit inside of it, kind of?
Something like that, or it would just be a sphere and it would puncture the ball. But yeah, think about Hellraiser and all of the hooks coming out of the walls into the bodies. Same thing was supposed to happen here, but they ran out of money.
That's okay. But also, I kind of want it now.
Yeah.
I can't decide what I want with this movie because it's really frustrating. These are the most frustrating episodes we ever do, is the movies where it's like, oh, you're so close. I see what you wanted to do, but this is clearly not it. And what's left, you have chopped to little bits and then thrown it at me. And it's watchable, but it's just not good.
These are the hardest episodes for us to talk about because of exactly that. I wanted to like this movie more. I am disappointed because it's possible that there was at least like a campy movie here that maybe critics back in the day, they just didn't get it, because this has got like a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. It ain't good, but maybe with hindsight almost 30 years on, maybe we can find some good in it, but it's just not really here. But I will say, as far as technology is concerned, because hey, it's a sci-fi movie, we got people using the equivalent of tablets like iPads here. When the woman is watching a video of her son, it's a really thin screen. It's a flat screen in her hand. That's cool.
As I said, they were at least thinking about the future and real technology and real science for it.
Yeah, and the other movie I was thinking about, Betsy, before we end this, was Sunshine.
I was waiting for you to say that because I had the same thought.
It is a crew going to rescue another crew that is sent off on a fucking suicide mission in order to do something grand.
And I believe it's been 7 years, give or take.
Sure.
And stuff is not as it appears.
Yep. Also, that movie ends up being a horror movie. Ha ha!
We've done it! Full circle!
Full circle to Sunshine from last year? Was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago, yeah. Man, how time flies when you're going through a wormhole. But not really. This is a podcast about movies. We're not fancy like that. We can't afford a wormhole.
I don't even know the science of trying to man-make a wormhole. I don't even know if that's theoretically possible. I am not a physicist.
Betsy, we're just going to have to wait another 15 years.
I'm not interested in going through your wormhole. Thank you and goodbye.
All right. Well, that'll be it for Event Horizon. Guys, did you see this movie back in the day? Do you actually like this? Can you defend this movie? Send us an email to neverseenitpod@gmail.com or go on to any of our social media sites. I know we're not getting a whole lot of emails lately, but just as a reminder that we are now on TikTok and we are now on YouTube. If you have accounts over there and you don't like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or Blue Sky, if you don't like any of that stuff, I know you got a YouTube account. Put a comment on one of the videos over there. Go to TikTok and like our shit, follow our shit to make all of our accounts grow so that we can reach more people. But we did actually receive an email about our last episode, Betsy. Can you guess who it was from?
In the month of spooky season, who could it be?
Who could it be but our superfan Stephanie? She emailed about The Thing from 1982 that we did last week. She says, I fucking love this movie. It is so damn good. I love the claustrophobia. I love the paranoia. I love the, quote, gnarly effects. I love the cast. Thank you, Stephanie, because if this podcast is on any kind of mission, it is to get the word gnarly back into people's mouths.
It's a 30-year-old word. We're bringing it back.
We're bringing it back.
Spread the word, guys.
Reclaiming the word gnarly. She continues by saying, we have watched this and The Thing from 2011, which we thought was a remake. We're going to talk about that in a second. We've watched this and the 2011 movie every year for the past decade or so I honestly cannot remember the first time I watched it. She says the 2011 movie is actually a prequel about the Norwegian outpost, and it is really good. It is not John Carpenter, but definitely worth a watch. Yeah, so I think we mentioned before, when we were just standing there in the theater waiting for everybody to kind of let out here, we were looking at the information about the 2011 movie, and we saw there's a chick in this one. There's no chicks in this movie.
So it was like, okay, are they completely changing the cast? Is it a reinterpretation? How are we doing it?
Right.
Well, it's because it's not really a remake. It's a prequel. It's a spin-off, if you will, of the original thing.
Yeah, it tells the story of the Norwegian crew that was already dead by the time we meet up with this other crew.
So in effect, it is the thing. It's just the version of the thing we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, and for the most part, what I've heard is that it's not very good. But according to Stephanie, maybe it is. I don't know.
I think it probably has the problem of it is tangentially related to The Thing. And The Thing is such a beloved horror movie. Mm-hmm. How do you decide, I'm going to make a remake of that? You know? And most of the John Carpenter remakes are probably not that good when it's other people taking over the property.
But people get really precious about these classic horror movies. Stephanie's not one of those. She just likes she likes all the kinds, all the good, all the bad, everything. Which is why she finishes the email by saying, "This spooky month, we love to watch spooky things. This week we watched Coco, you know, the most scary movie. The Nightmare Before Christmas, I've only seen that one once. The Haunted Mansion from 2023, Tremors, which is an excellent choice, and The Haunting of Hill House. Some of these with our daughter and some of these on our own. Love you guys from Superfan Stephanie."
Her daughter is the perfect age for Tremors. Yeah. It's such a ridiculous movie, but I was, oh God, I don't even know. I was probably 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that neighborhood when I finally saw Tremors.
That's
and it's
about
incredible.
The right age. Yeah. One of our friends was asking for recommendations for horror, and we're not really ones to do that, but I recommended Poltergeist.
Horror for children specifically.
Yes, I'm sorry. They were asking for horror for one of their sons. And I mentioned Poltergeist because I watched that one fairly young, and I wasn't that scared by it. I was interested in it. We actually covered it for the podcast because Betsy hadn't seen it at all. There are a few scary moments here, but it's nothing that is going to give you, I don't know, permanent damage.
It's another one of those like cheesy early 80s. The thing that's the scariest is the practical effects.
Sure, it's a lot of flashing lights and a lot of
puppetry and things like that.
It's concepts that I think kids can get their mind around, so it's not going to scare them because they don't understand it. But anyway, thank you, Stephanie, for sending in that email. If you too would like to be a superfan like Stephanie is, email us at neverseenitpod@gmail.com. As well as you can go to patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where you can get 5 other weekly shows that Betsy and I put out every single month, including an extension of this show that we're doing every October. We do Never Scream It 101 every single month.
We've been watching horror this entire year. We've been getting some bangers checked off our list, Trent.
Yeah, including we just covered the original Halloween from 1978. As kind of a nice compliment to The Thing from 1982.
Because, of course, you and I hadn't seen Halloween until like a week ago.
We hadn't seen either of them. So with the Halloween episode, there are 10 full episodes of Never Scream It 101 over on Patreon, including every other show that we've done since the beginning of last year. But with that, Betsy, I'm going to call this an episode. We got one more week of Never Scream It left to go. What are we going to be doing to close it out?
Well, Trent, we always try to do kind of a modern one.
Yeah.
So that's how we're going to be finishing the series. We're going back 10 years to 2015, and we are watching our very first Robert Eggers movie because we're going to be watching The Witch.
A first time for both of us. So make sure to come back next week for another episode of Never Seen It. Until then, my name's Trent.
My name is Betsy.
We'll catch you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.